When I want to touch the depth of my soul, I can't do it out here. I can't do it knowing there's a phone I have to get back to, relationships I need to tend to. There's a point in my journey over and over and over that presents itself where I get called back in. So your relationship, my relationship to it, moment to moment, has to be either self-generated of like, I'm okay, I'm still okay, or surrender of, oh my God, it's crushing me right now. Like I can't deal with the profundity, the size, the scope, the weight of 28 days, 49 days, whatever it may be, where I am in that journey. It was for me, Raj, the ultimate lesson in surrender, because there is nothing to do.
Traver.
Good to see you.
It's about time, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow. 49 days.
It's a long time.
You know, I'm like just touching the what the depth of that is. You know, like I remember doing my Vipassana 3 years ago, and 10 days with the lights on, in silence, was a deeply, deeply, deeply confronting experience. Mm-hmm. So 49 just feels like my psyche is like, it's having a hard time comprehending the magnitude of that.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of directions we can go, but I actually want to come down to something you mentioned before we hit the record button, which is that you will be engaging with the darkness your whole life. Mm-hmm. Can you just define the darkness?
I will put an eye mask on that's completely blocking out light, or I will go back to a facility that I can sit in complete isolation and darkness. That is my jujitsu. That is my path. That is my medicine. That is my practice. It's not practical for me to do this daily, right? To go to a place, a facility, sit for 24 hours in darkness, come out, go back to my work. I live in the world. I exist in the world. And yet I know when I want to go deep, Raj, when I want to touch the depth of my soul, I can't do it out here. I can't do it knowing there's a phone I have to get back to, relationships I need to tend to. There's a point in my journey over and over and over that presents itself where I get called back in. I was called back in for these 49 days to touch something I cannot touch without days or weeks. Think about that, weeks of isolation and no light. All of the distractional layers I have to get through, all of my egoic layers, all of the upper level grief, trauma, anxiety, challenges in my day-to-day business, relationships. I have to get beneath that to like the soul of the darkness. And that to me, that is my path.
The soul of the darkness. Can you describe that or extrapolate on that?
There's a energetic quality, a nurturance, a nutrition in that medicine. I get access to information. I get access to feeling. I get access to layers and depths of myself, to my own soul that I have not been able to find anywhere else. Plant medicine. I'm a multi-decade meditator. Athletics, nature, you name it. I, for whatever reason, need to sit in a pitch black room by myself for a long time.
And what have you learned about the darkness as it pertains to like a beginner's mindset? Like if you had to come back, right? Like what drew you into the darkness? How did you know this medicine was for you? Mm-hmm. And then what did you learn? What have you learned that you would wish you knew?
It's an odd tale, Raj. I was at my very first men's retreat like 10 years ago. And I was on a year-long project that I had dubbed the Year to Live project. I was living the entire year as if it were my last, and I went all in on that. I was writing publicly, blogging about it. And a guy literally sitting next to me eating a sandwich, a guy in his 60s, hears this. He's like, oh, you're doing that? You know what you need to do? If you really want to understand death without dying, you got to do a dark retreat. And I was like, what the heck's a dark retreat? And he went on to explain that he had done over 180 days, not cumulatively, not in one swath, of sitting in isolation in a pitch black room. And I was like, wait, what did you do? And he goes, yeah. Well, I did 49 days, 46, and 46 was because they pulled me out on the 46th day because I was bleeding from my eyes and nose, and maybe I think he maybe said my ears. And I was like, bro, what are you talking about? And again, he's like eating Lay's chips in a sandwich, and he's like, yeah. The Tibetans said that I went so deep, and then his face got all big. He goes, that I encountered a demon or demons, and I was like, I'm from Connecticut. I've never encountered demons. Did you encounter demons? And he was like, another bite of a sandwich. He's like, nah, I think I had food poisoning. I was like, okay. And I went home that night and I Googled, like, what the heck's a dark retreat? And it grabbed me because it went against every strength I had. I'm an athlete. I was a pro athlete at the time. I'm a public speaker. I'm a writer. Right? I'm a physical human. I'm a jujitsuist. All of my skills and talents would be irrelevant in that room.
Mm.
And so I was curious, could I survive it? This is early, like kind of maybe even egoic. Like, can I do this? And then secondly, what would it require of me to get through it? And what would it show me that I currently don't have access to or conscious contact with? What part of myself? Now, I was very, very naive. When I signed up for 28 days, having no idea that the normal intro period is about 3 to 5. And the facility that I was working with, the woman who I'm now very, very close with, said we'd never let anybody do more than 3 days on their first try before you. And she didn't tell me this coming in. I had just literally segmented the year into 12 different experiences. And so a month was the time that fit the frame I had for that Year to Live project. No idea of what I was getting myself into. And to answer your second question, man, it showed me like a whole other side of life. It showed me what depth is. It showed me what death is. It actually introduced me to my soul, something I don't get access to in the up and out, love and light, sort of standard consciousness model that I was given, right? I was not taught go down inside of yourself. I was taught to sit in meditation, but to get out of my mind, not to let my mind go crazy, not to let something so much bigger than I am initiate me. And when I say something so much bigger, I hope people realize there is almost a violence to the consistency of darkness. Does this make sense? Like, I'm going to struggle to articulate it. It never changes, ever. So there's this like staticness. It never changes. So your relationship, my relationship to it, moment to moment, has to be either self-generated of like, I'm okay, I'm still okay, or surrender of, oh my God, it's crushing me right now. Like, I can't deal with the profundity, the size, the scope, the weight of 28 days, 49 days, whatever it may be, where I am in that journey. It was for me, Raj, the ultimate lesson in surrender, because there is nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
To eat twice, go to the bathroom a couple times, maybe shower once a week. Do that for 3 days, and your mind kind of runs out.
How are
of
you
things
doing
to
that in
think
the
about.
darkness?
Which one?
All of it.
Very slowly. So food is brought. Like, I'm not cooking. Food is run through like a double door system. That makes sense. Like a mailbox with 2 different sides. And you eat slow. Try not to drop things. Shower. It's kind of scary, honestly. I don't know if you've seen, remember the movie Alien? Sigourney Weaver, where like the alien's like right here yelling, about to get like right in her face. That's pretty much how I felt. Like Freddy Krueger or Jason from Friday the 13th, like all of my childhood horror movie villains were like sitting outside the shower. So I'd just be like, and then I'm out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Working out very hard everything is hard. Everything is difficult. It's challenging to explain how much time and effort it takes to do very simple things. And for me, how much regulation I had to have in the room by knowing where stuff was. Like, where's my pen? Where's my notebook? I did take notes. Where are my socks? Because I feel like I spent a lot of time on the razor's edge of, I'm going to lose my shit. So not being able to find a sock is overwhelming on day 28. Where now it's like, I'll go to my drawer and get another sock, you know? Not knowing what time it is. And do I have 7 hours until breakfast or 40 minutes till breakfast? Now that's an exercise in surrender for someone who, one, has control issues, and two, is human and can regulate my life with agency at just about any point. I'm a free person. If I'm hungry, I go get food. If I want to know what time it is, I look at my watch. If I'm bored, I call somebody. If I'm lonely, I reach out. If I'm such and such, I do something about it.
Wow. Yeah. It's like, I can already feel like the deconstruction of every construct.
Truly.
Like, it's like even that whole, like being a free person. Like, it's like no little thing gets taken for granted. It's almost like anything you are taking for granted gets brought to your face with
Yeah.
confronting, like,
Yeah.
mirror, like it's right there. So what I heard in the reason why you got curious in the beginning was, if you want to understand death, go sit in darkness.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned about death, or what do you believe death to be? And can you speak to a moment where that clarity emerged?
Yeah. In my first retreat, it was probably day 24, 25. And I want to set the frame that the facility at that point was very, very physically uncomfortable. It was concrete floor with a yoga mat. That was my furniture. The bed was a hardwood loft where the roof of the facility was like right here. So I couldn't turn right. So I had to sleep on my back. The bedding was very thin. So my hips would just burn and ache all night. And I'm telling you this because I didn't sleep for 3.5 weeks, more than like a half hour at a time, before waking up and having to move or getting up or then going lying on the concrete floor. It was very, very physically uncomfortable. And I lost a significant amount of weight going from someone who feeds himself mostly meat to vegan food, very little of, and very bland. So I've also worked through, at the time, I was in the middle of a divorce. My ex had had a miscarriage, so I was reeling with grief around the loss of fatherhood, the loss of this child, and then the loss of my marriage. So I am not in a good state coming into this room. Now, 3.5 weeks later, I wake up, let's call it, on the floor, and I'm pretty confused as to whether I'm actually alive or dead. Now, I'm not trying to be dramatic. Like, think of 3.5 weeks of that experience. And I remember trying to like touch my face, and I couldn't figure out, is this real? Can I reach through my face? Is this death? Like, ooh, I got chills. And I sat in that for hours. Like, maybe I've died. I don't know. Maybe this is death. This is what happens. This is what all the stories are about and religions are about. It's this. But what I came away from was, this is what it's going to be like. At some point, I was 40 years old at the time. Unless AI changes everything drastically, I got about 30, 40 more years left. Then I will be removed from society. I will be retaken by the darkness. Society will continue around me. People will have babies. People will get married. People will argue on Facebook. Politics will happen. Wars will happen. I just won't be there anymore. And to sit in that reality of, I don't want this to sound negative, Raj, like how irrelevant I am. The world is still happening. Nothing stopped because I came in this dark room. Just like nothing will stop maybe a day after I pass. So to humbly be shown the irrelevancy was beautiful, because it also led into, wow, in 30, 40 years, whenever this happens, my slate gets wiped clean. If I come out of this room and I write a New York Times bestseller, 40 years from now, people probably aren't going to remember. 50, 60 years, irrelevant. If I come out of this room and I write a book and nobody reads it whatsoever, 30, 40 years from now, it's irrelevant. So that combination was this odd sense of pure freedom. Come out and swing for the fences, fail gloriously, right? And also realize, be humbled, truly humbled by the fact that I can have my dramas. I can have my life dramas, my relational dramas, my business dramas. And at some point, they'll be completely irrelevant. So how much do I want to pour into them? How attached do I want to be to them? Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't get upset if I get a parking ticket, or I never get in arguments with romantic partners, or, I don't have stress. I haven't evolved out of that, out of my humanity. But it truly gave me a different sense of the human experience, because death went from this arbitrary cerebral idea, like I know I'm going to die, kind of, to, oh my God, this is what it's actually like. This is the experience that man was telling me in between bites of his sandwich.
So it's like the fear. So in the moment where you thought you were dying,
I thought I was dead.
the pieces that were coming up were your relationship to relevance and mattering. What else? What was like another construct that was arriving in that moment when you thought you died?
It was more of just a physical somatic experience of, this is what it's going to be like. I'm not afraid. I'm not in agony. I'm just gone. Does that make sense? Like, I'm just no longer an entity. And I can think, but so what? So it was a very, it wasn't, I don't want to make this sound too like it was just out of body. I was thinking, like, am I dead? I think I'm dead. Holy shit, I've died. Oh shit. And then, oh wow. And then, well, okay, what do we do now? All right, I guess there's nothing to do. I'm never going to leave this room.
So the oh shit,
Yeah.
can you speak to the oh shit?
Yeah.
What that was like? The oh wow, what that was like?
Okay. Oh shit is like, there's so much fanfare around this. This is what religions are preaching. This is, we're going to save you from, here's our gift, the afterlife. Here's the drama that you're afraid of your whole life. What will death be? Will I be surrounded by family? Will I be dying in a ditch? Will it be painful? Will it be excruciating? It was like, oh, it's like going to get a cup of coffee. It's like going to the bathroom. It's just a standard part of the human experience. It's that unremarkable, despite how remarkable it is. That's the duality of death. Right? It is the biggest fear. It is the biggest subject. It is the thing we don't want to touch. It is the driving force behind so many decisions. And yet it's going to be just like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was the oh shit. The oh wow was more of what I spoke to before, of if this is what I'm no longer afraid of, what's possible when I come out of here? What's the freedom? I now get to take that oh wow and put it in.
If you come out of there.
If I come out of there. Yeah.
Because you didn't know if you were alive or dead.
Yeah. I had the conscious thought, like, if I'm thinking, maybe I'm not. It was a tussle, right? There were definitely moments where it's like, man, this is it. Cool. I hope the food gets better, And then when I started to come out was the oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, okay. Holy shit, freedom. I don't have to worry about this. It's not death meditations, which I know a lot of practices have. It was like a little somatic dose of it,
Mm-hmm.
without having a near-death experience, which I've read countless people come out of the car accident and they're like, I'm cool now. I'm not going to argue with my ex-husband anymore, right? I'm changing my jobs. I'm just going to live the life that I want to live. There were pieces of that. Probably not as intense as if I'd, fought for my life for a week on Everest and come back and, oh my God, now I have a rebirth in that effect. But it really did drop in not a level of courage. I want to be honest here. Truly like a dose of freedom. I'm like, bro, don't worry about half the stuff you worry about.
Yeah.
And then what was the last one? Oh shit.
What do you do next?
What do I do now?
What do I do now?
Yeah. It invited a level of honesty into my life, a level of honesty into my writing, into my work of, hey, I'm going to go for this thing. I'm going to swing for the fences. I'm going to speak about things that people don't want to speak about. It's going to be my path. I'm free to do that because I've now unplugged from the good opinion of the collective in a way that I hadn't before. You guys don't like what I write about? Don't read it. I think coming into that room 10 years ago, I was still very much caught up in,
Yeah.
am I allowed to speak about this stuff? And this isn't even cancel culture worry. It's really like, am I as a human allowed to speak about these subjects that I may not just have no qualification for, but I haven't been given permission to speak about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in many ways, like coming back to claiming, so that claim that was possible as a result of touching the experience of death in such a visceral way, in such a dark, like embodied way. Like the mind, if it had to think about death, it is darkness.
Yeah.
It is like, I can't see anything. I don't know what's happening. I don't know it's like, so so the medicine of darkness really does simulate the environment that one would imagine death is, with painful detail, which then allows for that depth of liberation. That's beautiful, man. What's the difference that now in hindsight you can see between like the different lengths, right? So like, you know, there's obviously like a culture. You said, you know, even the facilities recommend, you know, 3 to 5 days. And then, you know, you did longer, which was like the 28. And then you've gone even longer than that, which is like the 49. What's the depth that's possible at these different stages, and what can someone expect at different lengths of darkness? And how can one know which amount of time is appropriate best for them? If you have any guidance on that, I think that'd be really helpful for people.
Yeah. I don't have experience with the shorter stays, so I don't have direct experience. The woman who was guiding me said oftentimes what happens with 3 to 5 days, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what the person wants, is they sleep for 2 or 3 days. They come in exhausted, they come in anxious, they come in adrenalized, and then go, oh, wow, there's nothing to do. And then most people, their lives are exhausting. So they crash for a day or two, and then they meditate for a day or two, and then they come out. And so I can't speak to whether that's more profound than 7 weeks. I only have,
It's restorative.
it's restorative.
It's restorative. And so
Yeah.
there's medicine in restoration,
For sure.
and isolation,
Removal
from
of distraction.
removal of all distractions, where you just get to come home to rest and yourself.
Yes.
And I can see that.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you, like, for the first 5 days of your sits? Like, what was the experience like in the early for you?
I still had a foot in the outer world. So I remember, like, I had looked on social media the day before going in, and 3 days in, 4 days in, I was still like, why do people care about that? This topic that had come up. I was like, what's going on with this? I wonder if my business is doing okay. I wonder if people listen to the podcast that we put up on Monday. So I still had like real access to the living world, the light world, society, the civilized world, as I call it. And it took time for me to slowly get dropped down into depth.
Yeah.
It probably took 9 days before I had a huge bout of grief come up, maybe 9 days in. And I remember thinking, oh, good. I'm not just here to plan my 2026 business calendar, you know, on an imaginary whiteboard in this room. I'm not just here to meditate like I do sitting in my living room on a Tuesday morning. There's something deeper that wants to come up and out. And the longer I was in, the more that happened.
Do you feel like, so without having the frame that is the way this works, it took you 9 days to get there. knowing what you knew about darkness and then going into your 49-day sit, do you feel like you were able to access those states sooner?
Yes, because the room wasn't as exciting. Eating wasn't novel. Going to the bathroom without being able to see wasn't novel, right? I also, the first time, can say I went in, closed the door, and was like, holy shit, what's going to happen? Kind of waiting and hyper vigilant for anything that may take place. Where on this longer one, having done the 28 days and being a different person, when I blew the candle out, they light a candle for you to blow out at your own pace. I remember sitting there and having a conversation with the darkness, saying, like, I'm back. Thank you for calling me in. I look forward to the next 7 weeks with you. Like, let's get into some stuff. I'm fully available for whatever you have here. I want to be in relationship with you. How different than, white knuckle kind of fear, like, holy shit, what sound was that? I wonder what time food's coming. How do I eat without being able to see? So I was able to drop into my own depth faster. But there were things that were so deeply buried, Raj, that they took weeks to come out. Weeks to come out.
When you say buried from your own life, or
From my own life.
yeah, that's
Pre-verbal trauma took 6 weeks.
that's really profound. Yeah, I could see how a process like this would allow you to get to the pre-verbal developmental somatic memories that are just not, you can't actually consciously access them through any process. Maybe plant medicine, the right plant medicines and the right intention and with the right level of cleanup that you've already done, you might be able to get there.
But not with the mind that you look at your P&L with, that you balance your checkbook with, that you figure out how to get geographically from A to B with. That mind isn't going to drop you. You have to get out of that.
I guess that's actually part of the healing.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I was just nomadic traveling and I stayed in an Airbnb in Asheville, and it was owned by a professor of Buddhist studies at like some local college in Asheville. And I remember telling him, I was like all high and just like badass, like, super earlier on. And I was like, I've done a ton of plant medicine. Like, I'm ready for darkness. And he looks at me and he's like, have you sat in meditation for more than 45 minutes? And I was like, no. He's like, I would start with a Vipassana. And I remember when I did my Vipassana, it was like, it takes a minute to break down the mind. Like, there's a level of breaking of the mind that I feel is so healthy for society, right? Like, because the mind is so wired in control. The mind is so wired in grip, in separation, in constructs of survival, and in constructs of disconnection. And there is something about these initiatory experiences and your first ones, whether it's a Vipassana or darkness, where you're just forced to sit, that it's almost like there's like a necessary breaking that has to happen. And so you can't get all the medicine of these experiences on your first one.
I agree.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
And so what was the medicine you got? I guess what's the difference in the medicine you got from your 28 days in darkness? So how many times have you sat? Let's just start there. Actually, you've sat
In
28
darkness. Twice.
Okay, so what was the difference in the medicine you received or the insight you were able to access in your first and your second?
It's a great question. I've described my first like a 28-day car accident. I was so beat up going in and had so much trauma that was fresh that I was still in the midst of. And I had no skill at the time on how to navigate that. I was like a straight unconscious dude, ex-pro fighter, gym owner, sober now for like 6 months, fresh on this path. Have not worked with a lot of therapists, have not worked with a lot of brilliant men and or women in this field. So just a newbie, raw, thrown in. And it taught me about grief, of just full surrender to grief. I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed in that first room for days upon days upon days, and then had the experience of death. So those were the two, if I was to like categorize it, takeaways. Grief is bigger than you. That was a lesson. Grief is so much bigger than you. The only thing to do with it is to surrender to it. Same with death. So much bigger than me. And yet this time coming in, the 49-day one, there was grief. My father had died the year before on day 47, and I didn't realize how much grief I still carried around that. But it wasn't the same as where I was a decade ago. I had ended a 4-year relationship. There was grief around that. This is opposed to just feeling like I was getting punched in the head constantly. It was more of a longer, drawn out, hey, there's things you need to clear out. And what we want to do is introduce you to a depth of yourself, a deep part of yourself, to your own soul, where you can now sit in dialogue with your own soul. That wasn't there 10 years ago. I think 10 years was like, hey, we got to clear out this top layer of stuff. And then you need to spend 10 years working with people, teaching, writing, living your life, engaging in further practices. Now you're going to come back and go to like grad school of the soul. Here, welcome. This is you. Holy shit. Okay. Yes, did I have to work through things to get there? Absolutely. But I came out with a very different relationship to myself, a very different orientation to the world from myself, if that makes sense. Or before I came out in 2015, 2016, it was like, cool, I'm going to get on a TED stage. I'm going to write some books. I want to start a men's movement. I feel pretty good. I worked through some stuff. And this was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, Raj. I just know I'm cool not doing anything. And for the first time in my entire life, that's new. I didn't come out and grab a notebook and start writing down goals and things I was going to accomplish. I came out, took my notebook, and just started crossing out things in my life. Going, this no longer fits. Oh shit, that's hard. This is going to be painful. I'm going to have to get rid of this. Oh, my business is going to have to change. I'm not interested in talking about this stuff anymore. Okay, here's the next book I'm going to write, but I'm not going to write it for a while. Okay, we're going to come back to some things that I may have gotten away from and gotten off track, that my soul and psyche are like, no. This is number one. The reprioritization of myself happened. Now I have to live into that, which is, that is a day-to-day struggle to wake up and go, cool, that's truth. I need to live by that. That's who I am at my core. I have to live by that. As opposed to getting off 1 degree from that and then 3 years from now being wildly off track.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
It's a commitment to your soul.
100% commitment.
And it's not something that every being makes. So I want to honor that, because I can feel the depth of reverence and humility and devotion to your soul that's calling you forward into these really deeply difficult experiences. You mentioned something that I think is really important to bring forward, which is the skills that are necessary to truly integrate and work with the medicine of darkness. Like, what do you believe are the internal skills necessary for somebody to, like, for example, I'm actually not the biggest fan of introducing people to plant medicine on day one. I'm not. Why is that? I know there's a whole culture of people wanting to wake up and go to plant medicine, but I'm like, if you don't have the internal capacity to be able to integrate the ahas and the insight and all the things that blow up for you, because plants will take you all the way up and you'll touch God and then you'll come back. And if you don't have the internal skill sets, the language sets, the perspective sets to be able to take what happened and apply it into your life, it's actually going to create more harm than not. And so I've always, even at Liberate, everything we're doing is about giving people those foundational skill sets to be able to develop that internal awareness or that internal pattern recognition system or that internal resilience to then be able to move forward in any level of personal development and growth work with at least a bug out bag that they can have on them, as they're like navigating the terrain,
Yeah.
which is complex and multi-dimensional and multi-layered. And I'm not saying you're going to have everything prepared going into a darkness, but what do you believe are the foundational perspective sets, skill sets, or awareness sets that you believe are would be beneficial for someone to go into an initiatory experience like that and get the most out of it on the back end?
Oof. That is $1 million question, brother. Truly $1 million question. One, you have to have a practice. If you do not have a practice of stillness, of mindfulness, of groundedness, of meditation, you're going to have a very hard time. I was meditating 3 to 4 to 5 hours a day, every single day, having decades of that practice of saying, okay, what I'm experiencing right now, what I just experienced was overwhelming. It required me, as someone who works with trauma daily, who works with humans at their worst moment daily, who works with brilliant therapists and thought leaders daily, I still had to go to the back of my files many, many times and go, cool, what question can I ask myself right now? Hey, man, it's us. Things are going a little bit wonky right now, or things are fucking tough. What do we need to be okay in this moment? Okay, I'm going to sit when I'm done here. I'm going to sit for an hour straight. I'll be okay. So a practice, man, that was so necessary. Because imagine if at some point tonight you wake up and you have no idea what time it is, and you don't know if you're not what the next time marker will be. If that's 8 hours from now again or 30 minutes from now, that's very disorienting. Very disorienting. Now imagine you've done that for a month. You have no idea, just the simple thing of what time it is. That will send people down wormholes. That will send people opening the door and getting out of that room immediately. I was told how many people, seasoned practitioners, tap out in the dark. So having a practice, my promise to myself after a conversation with Orpita, the guide I had, was if I woke up at any point and I had slept for length, you can kind of know if you just sort of like dozed off or slept. If I had slept for length, right to the meditation zone, right to that little area that they had blocked out. Didn't care what time it was. I'm going to sit 3 rounds, hopefully 30 minutes, like till my right foot falls asleep. I gave it 30 minutes. A practice. That's massive. Number 2, can you hold space for yourself? I don't know how we quantify that as a skill, Raj, but do you have any idea how many times I had to wrap my own arms around myself and just say, like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
So that would be the skill of self-soothing.
Self-soothing, self-regulation, and just being with whatever happened. Being with the grief, the fear, the terror, the trauma, whatever it is that was happening in that moment, not trying to shut it down, not trying to move past it, just saying, like, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay.
So I'm hearing self-soothing, the ability to regulate when you touch something that's fearful, when you touch something that's big, when you touch something that has magnitude, whether it's a trauma, whether it's a panic attack, whether it's anything, the ability to regulate through breath, through whatever practice you have. Meditation could be anything. And then the third is the willingness, or maybe the resilience, to be with what is. Am I interpreting that? So like
the surrender.
So there's a level of surrender that one
active surrender.
So, and that's a practice.
Yeah.
So if someone doesn't have an active relationship to surrender, they're going to have a very difficult time when they meet those moments.
1,000%.
What do you define as an active, like an active surrender practice?
It's bringing consciousness and bringing intentionality to the idea, in this moment, I can do nothing about this other than breathe, even if it takes my breath away. There were times in there where I was so insane, gone, off the charts. If someone had walked in that room in that moment, they would have pulled me right out and sent me to a hospital. And I knew it. A tiny, tiny, tiny part of my being or consciousness was like, let yourself go here. We have to stay here. This is the medicine. This is why we're here. It's not to design a 2026 business structure on an imaginary whiteboard. It's this moment that we have not been able to touch with therapy, with plant medicine, with guided, what's the word where people, hypnosis. This is the moment. And then probably, honestly, brother, losing even that tiny point of consciousness and going full into the depth of insanity, having some knowing that I'm either going to come out at some point okay, or being willing to not. Now that's risking the whole farm.
Okay, so that's a fourth level. Well, I guess that's the byproduct of having a surrender practice, which is having experienced some level of ego death, some level of dying, some level of risk.
Yeah.
I am allowing myself to be seen without knowing if it's going to be received or not. I'm going to say the thing to the person without knowing if it's going to be. So it's like there's a level of risk that is
You're
of
familiar
risk.
with.
Yeah, you're either you've touched, you're familiar with, you've had a relationship to, and maybe that is it. There's an active relationship to risk.
Yeah.
And
There's an intimacy with it. Right. My teacher, Dewey Freeman, says intimacy is when you go through a hard time with someone and you come out okay. Now, I think that applies to ourselves as well. I went through 28 days of hell like I've never experienced, and came out okay. So I had a feeling that no matter what I was served on day 42, on day 43, no matter how deep that hell was, I've done this once. I have a relationship with it. I have intimacy with what rock bottom feels like, even if it just got dropped down another foot. I have a sense I'm going to be okay. And I guess that fourth level is, if I'm not, so be it. But I have to be willing. I think there's a point in initiation, man, that you have to get so far beyond your own capacity that you don't know if you're going to come out okay or not. That's initiation. Otherwise, we kind of white knuckle or have like one eye on the, like,
you're cheating it.
Just a tiny bit.
Well, you're cheating the medicine of death.
Exactly.
Right? Like there's a medicine, and I remembered even when Natalie and I, when we separated for 4 months, we called it a death portal. And even though we came back into relationship, when we chose to close the container, both of us were like, we have to let this die. If either of us would have been like, oh, okay, no, maybe we'll come back together in the future.
Right.
Or maybe there's this window open.
Right. It's closed.
We would have not been able to access the depth of alchemy.
Right. Does that make sense?
Of transformation that was possible inside of that dying experience. And that's what I'm hearing in this is like your willingness to let yourself touch that vulnerable depth of surrender. That's like and maybe that's not something you had to have practiced going into initiation. You know, I think that's what initiation brings forth. And so if you've had practice with it, great, then this will be like meeting an old friend, but maybe a deeper layer.
Yeah.
Because I imagine that no matter how many times you've practiced that, it never gets easy.
No.
It's never easy because you're accessing a new depth of letting go, a new depth of like allowing, falling back, trusting in the divine, trusting that death is okay. It's safe. Do you feel safe in dying now?
I don't know if I can answer that honestly. I feel safer than I ever have.
Yeah.
But I think that's another initiatory moment that you don't know till you get there. So I'll project that it's going to be, I have a lot less concern about it, is probably the best way to say it. I don't really think about it. And I don't know, I've even checked in with therapists. I'm like, am I just bypassing? Am I just, am I just pretending that everything's going to be cool if I die tomorrow? Or am I truly embodied in, I'm going to be okay with that? I love my life. I don't want to die tomorrow. And I've touched something that most people don't touch. I have a relationship with an entity of darkness that very, very few people have. If that's what death is, beautiful. I'm going back to a room in Tuscany. I've spent 49 days in there. It's amazing. I'll live there forever. I hope there's bacon in some of the vegan food, right? I hope the afterlife has surf, but I'm cool. I'm good to go. And maybe I don't have a partner. I don't have kids. I don't have the things that people would really cling to and want to be here for. And maybe that will change. But in this moment, a month and a half out of the dark, I would sit down with death and say, cool, where are we going?
I would love for you to leave, if you had a message for the individuals who are in families, who are raising kids, who are in relationships and don't have that luxury of being able to go sit in the darkness for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
What might be something that you would share with them that would enrich their lives?
Yeah. Meditation is still intimacy to me. Most of us, when I was in relationship, when I've been in relationships, the orientation is intimacy with partner is more important than intimacy with yourself. I would reorganize that.
Totally.
And say, even if you have 5 kids and you have 20 minutes once a week to sit with an, I'm going to say with an eye mask on, so you experience real darkness, and you sit with yourself and you just go, hey, how are we doing? Right? We doing okay? I appreciate you. I love you. I'm proud of you. Like, create some kind of relationship with yourself, because you will then carry that to your partner. You will then carry that to your children. I'm not recommending people go 7 weeks. Don't do it. If you want to go 3 days, give it a shot, right? Please don't have your picture taken the moment you come out. Be in the experience and let the experience be what it is. But we can all, as a culture, especially men, we're so distracted. From the moment we all wake up, what's the first thing most people do is look at their phone, as opposed to feel into themselves. So I would say cultivate the same or not higher level of intimacy that you want to bring to your partner, you want to bring to your children. Keep that, bring that to yourself daily, over and over and over, as a radical practice that you will never deviate from, because there is nothing more important.
Traver, fuck, man. I'm so stoked that we did this. Like,
thank you for having me.
No, I was just like, we were together, I think on my birthday.
Yeah.
That was the last time I saw you.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
And you were just getting ready to go.
Yeah.
And I just had this sense that this was going to be a deeply one of a kind type of experience. And so I'm just so grateful that you can choose to do this work, choose to share so openly so that others can prevent harm, can choose appropriately and wisely, be prepared. And I'd love to, so what is here for you right now that people can be aware of? And, if they want to reach out or have questions, like what's the way to engage with you at this moment in your journey?
I published a book on Monday called 28 Days in Darkness.
Oh, cool.
All about my first retreat and the stories that came through me then, the lessons of that. It's a wild, wild book. And you can get that on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble or manuncivilized.com/28 days. I'm not hard to find. If you put the word uncivilized in podcast search, URL, Instagram, I'd better come up.
I've done a lot of work.
If I don't come up, DM me. Or Traver Boehm on Instagram. And I love hearing from people who specifically listen to a podcast conversation, have a question, have a thing to share. I'd love to hear from your audience.
Cool. All right, brother. Well, we'll make all those available in the show notes.
Thank you.
Traver, I got one last question for you, brother.
Sure.
in the midst of everything you're doing, everywhere you've been and everywhere you're going, how do you stay grounded? And what's a practice that has helped you just become a more grounded human being?
I try to feel the deepest part of my stomach. It sounds a bit cliche, and I just breathe into that space. And that, Raj, just takes me from like, blah, 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 I have 5,000 tabs open in my brain to woof. This is all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
This is where my love lives, right? I'm in love with my stomach. You can put that as like your headline. This is not a fitness podcast, but I drop down into my stomach and I find peace there. I find love there. I find joy there. I find satisfaction there. So learning just to breathe into and go, ooh, okay, I'm home.
Brother, thank you again for sharing your heart, your soul with us.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to watch what emerges from this.
Yeah.
This spaciousness feels like really fertile, soul rich soil. There's very few people I meet who, how are you, 50?
49.
49.
Yeah.
So like, even at that stage, like you've lived so much life, right? So at this stage in life, like I know so many humans, including like my dad and so many people who are in their later, my dad's in his 60s, but like I feel like that second afternoon of life, like there isn't a lot of focus or education on coming into rite of passage at that stage, like going into your 50s and going into your 60s and being able to compost everything. And I love that you even mentioned like it was about letting go. You came out of the darkness and it was about, not adding more things you wanted to do, is actually letting go of what wasn't. And that in and itself requiring deep integration. And I think a lot of people I think that's a really important message, to simplify, to cut out, to have the hard conversations, and to have the courage and the skill sets to be able to do that. So, I don't know what emerges for you on this next soul seed, but I'm really excited to feel I can already feel the quality of your next book. And I think it's going to be
Thank you.
really beautiful. And I didn't even know about your 28 Days to Darkness. I'm actually excited to pick that up and go deeper, because this conversation was primo.
Thank you, brother.
You got it,
Appreciate
man. Everybody, that's a wrap for this week's episode of Stay Grounded. I'm your host, Raj. This is your new friend, Traver, and from us, stay grounded. We'll chat soon.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Stay Grounded. No matter where you're from or what you're going through, I hope it helps you remember just how incredible you are and have always been. If you're on a path of emotional healing or self-discovery and would like to learn how Liberate can support your journey, head to www.rajana.com/liberate. That is LIBER8 to learn more about our current group programs and one-on-one offerings. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.